Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. It's your host, Josh Chapman speaking, and today we're in semi-familiar surrounds. We're not actually in the home studio. We're slightly playing away from home at my in-laws' house because our house has been cleaned. So I'm in the father-in-law's study here, and I'm sort of amongst the madness, really. There's a lot going on around me. There's a lot of books and shelves and papers and stuff that looks like it hadn't been touched in years. But that's all right. We'll get through. But we've got a special guest on today. He's a man who's starting his own empire, basically. He's pushing his brand and starting his own channel, and he's a Melbourne boy as well, so I had to get him on. And he's from the Blue Bantha Milk, and it's Matt Grant. How you going, Matt?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm going well. It's nice. So for context, it's actually Friday afternoon here. So you got two blokes who probably should be working or doing something else, but we're just, using our Friday afternoons to talk Star Wars on a podcast. It's not bad, is it?
The beauty of what I do. So by day, I'm an IT consultant. By night and by day and by all the other times I should be working, I'm doing Star Wars stuff. But I work from home, so I'm right. Like literally my setup is like you're in your father-in-law's place at the moment. I'm on the kitchen bench, which is where I do most of my work. We've got video going, so you can see my cats sleeping,
running the place.
They basically they'll at a point they're going to wake up and they're going to just crack it and go, hello, the phone's ringing. Hello.
Yeah. Is that your phone? There is a phone.
I think that's yours.
Phone.
Yeah, that's yours.
This is what happens when you get into someone else's study. Someone else starts ringing the phone and things. That's probably some alarm's probably gone off. My father-in-law's probably got cameras in here somewhere, and he's seen that the phone's going off, and he's just gone, I'm going to tell him to get the hell out of there.
He's not calling about what was going on 10 minutes before we started the call.
Yeah, maybe he's got an opinion on Star Wars he wants to call in. I didn't realise we were a call-in show, but anyway, away we go. But working from home is a bit of a funny one because I'm in IT as well. I do sort of design stuff, UX design, and I worked in London for years for Barclays Bank, and I worked over when London had the Olympic Games. They basically wanted everybody to get out of Canary Wharf, which was right next to where the Olympic site was. So they, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to find that.
Put them on the call. Let's ask them about Star Wars.
I think it's a fax. There's a fax machine right next to me. That's so bizarre. Anyway. That's what that keeps it real. I was working for Barclays Bank in London, and basically when the Olympics was on, they had the Olympic site was very close to where all the banks are in London, this place called Canary Wharf. So they just said, for the 12 weeks, for the 6 weeks that the Olympics are on, the Olympics, the break, and then the Paralympics, we want everybody to work from home. So I basically got to spend 6 weeks working from home during the London Olympics. And my job then was very demands-based. So it was basically like until somebody came for something, there wasn't really much to do. It was always like, we need a design thing, so this is what it is. But basically everybody took it as a 6-week holiday. So I spent 6 weeks sitting around at home watching the Olympics and getting paid, I think it was like £400 a day or something, to just sit around doing nothing for 6 weeks. It was great. So, I don't know. The working from home always sounds good for a long time, but I don't know. Do you manage to keep your sanity all right, do you? Or?
Oh, definitely, man. So I came out of smallish corporate. It was one of those IT startup kind of environments, and, good company, but small IT startup kind of wants to act a little more corporate than it really is sometimes. Yeah. That's sort of what got me to get out the door. And this opportunity came up to work from home, and I jumped on it. So it works well for me. I know people that it drives them nuts. They basically do just treat it as like a working holiday. It's like, I'm getting paid to sit on the couch. And it's no, you got to actually work. Like, you got to put some structure around it. But it's enabled me. It's enabled me to increase productivity while decreasing personal hygiene, while increasing money spent on Star Wars. So I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's good.
So I usually start off with a bit of a general question regarding Star Wars stuff. So how are you feeling about Star Wars at the moment?
I'm loving Star Wars at the moment.
That's a good response.
Like, yeah, sorry, there we go. Good. Next question.
It's such a leading question, because sometimes I ask that question and that's the only question I ask for the whole podcast. And then sometimes someone would go, "Oh, good," and you go, "Oh, okay. Well, what else you got?" But
sorry, I won't give you the one-word response. I'm feeling really good about Star Wars at the moment, despite all the things that could bring you down. But that's people. That's spending time on Twitter and actually reading the nonsense that people are posting up there. That's watching people that claim to be fans, harassing the author of the new Padme book.
I just saw that. I kind of, because I've been on holiday, so I've been dipping in and dipping out and haven't really paid much attention to it. So I kind of missed all that. So she sort of had some opinions about Kylo Ren or something, and then some people didn't agree with those opinions. And
it didn't fit with some people's headcanon. And sorry, I'm going to say that, and I know that someone's going to hear that, and they're going to be like, "How dare you?" And I'm not caring. Absolutely not caring, because I've got headcanon, and I don't expect someone writing a book about any character in Star Wars. I don't expect anyone at Lucasfilm to share my headcanon, right? Let alone a contracted person that's there to write a book. They're people, they're allowed to have their own opinions, their own thoughts, and everyone's life is subjective. And so watching these people calling for E.K. Johnson to get, that's her name, E.K. Johnson?
I think so.
Yeah, calling for her to get fired. I'm watching Twitter threads unfold of people going, "Yeah, I really was going to call her out." It's like, call her out for what?
And to who?
And to who? But they're doing it. And it's like, really? Oh, yeah.
So it's that differentiation between somebody's headcanon and then their influence into Star Wars canon. In order to get something into Star Wars canon, especially now, like before it was basically whatever George could think of on a particular day, and if he changed his mind, he changed his mind. And and now there's a bunch of processes and hoops and things that have to be jumped through, and story groups and things. So in order to think this because somebody has an opinion about a character in their head, that somehow they can change the interpretation of a character and how it's done anyway. I mean, it's sort of ridiculous, really, because everybody has their own headcanon. And one of the things that I always sort of speculate why some people reacted like they did in regards to The Last Jedi was, because it took place the day after The Force Awakens, or literally, so many people in their head had decided what was going to happen, because it was like, well, the only thing that can happen is this, because it's literally the next day. So, I believe that it's going to be this thing, and Luke will do this. And then it was like, well, the film's an exercise in subverting expectations. So it was completely like, nah, dog, this isn't going to turn out like you think it is. It's all, and some people couldn't handle it.
So the whole concept of subversion is an interesting one, right? I was having this conversation with myself and probably someone else at some.
He was really on the point.
Yeah, I made good points. The whole subversion thing is something that I find kind of interesting. We know categorically that The Last Jedi was being written while The Force Awakens was in production. So the subversion happens based on so if we treat subversion as fan expectation being subverted, well, while it was being written, that would have only been speculative. It's like, what could they have done? But they've come out and said, like, that's not a consideration. They're not sitting there writing it going, how can we subvert what they may or may not expect once we finally finish this film? Like it's more of a retroactive kind of subversion,
Yeah, that's right. I think the purpose, I don't think, Rian Johnson, even though there are themes about, subversion and changing expectation and things, but I think he, especially for a second chapter, the whole idea of a second chapter is to put the characters in the worst situation that you basically can.
Absolutely.
So he was like, well, basically, in order to do that, I have to do A, B, and C. If Ray walks up that mountain and hands the lightsaber to Luke and he just goes, let's go get those fools, and cuts everyone down, it's Superman movies again. It's just there's no tension, there's no nothing. And I was having a discussion with Tracy Gardner when she was on. We were talking about Holdo. You know, the reason Holdo exists as a character is basically to roadblock and to create that tension and to create that unknown and that non-safety zone. Because if it was just Leia and nothing, or Admiral Akbar, everyone would just go like, all right, well, I guess we'll just listen to these guys and then we'll just sit here and wait it out. Like it's death on film. There's nothing, there's no, you know, it's all about sort of creating, you know, not just an interesting story, but to take the audience on a ride and to not know what's happening, or sort of, you know. So.
Absolutely. And it's a weird thing, you know, like, I don't know about you, but Star Wars, I have no idea what the hell is happening. I can think and speculate and all this in my head as much as I want to, but when I sit down in that cinema seat, it's completely up to them to tell me. And that moment of sitting there watching it, for me, it's just, I'm a sponge. It's like, yep, okay, cool, because now I've got to start reassessing everything that came before. I've got to start thinking about where things fall into place. But until I'm given that information and it is now canon, that, well, what is there? I'm not going to walk in with a checklist, but it seems like people do. They walk in with checklists, and is that a leftover thing from the EU? Is that what happens when essentially fan fiction gets published?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. You know, we had such bigger gaps between films before, and there was so much more time to speculate and stew on things. And now things kind of roll on so quickly. So I think people feel like they need to make their minds up quicker, maybe, or it's just the sharing of information is different. But do you have a sort of, you know, when a new Star Wars movie comes out, do you have a routine or a bunch of mates that you go with, or friends or family that you kind of do every time, or does it kind of vary on the film, or?
So I've got a smallish group that we'll go to. Like we'll always go to the films probably for the opening night together. Increasingly, that's sort of moving into the territory of the Facebook group that I run. So, you know, Solo, for example, like half of us that were in that group hadn't seen Solo. We saw it together on opening night. One of the members was running a charity screening for the Cancer Council or something. They managed to get a good, like a Dolby Atmos theater at Crown. So we had a 6 p.m. session of that. Only one guy in the group had seen it. And of course, when the mall reveal happened, Michael Dorr, if you're listening, when you looked over at me, and it's like, oh, something's about to happen. I could see him.
He wanted to know what your reaction was going to be.
Yeah, he'd said it beforehand, and so I'm just watching, and I could just see this light shining on him from over the corner of my eye. He was to my right-hand side, and it was almost like a half exorcist turn. He just sort of turned and looking at me. He's no longer looking at the screen, and I was like trying not to look at him, and then Maul came on and I forgot he was there, and I just started yelling. I was like, ah!
I watched the second time I saw Solo, I took by my partner and my best mate and his kids and his son, sort of 7 or 8 or whatever, and they were sort of sitting right in the row in front of us, you know, and I was just watching him when he came up. He's just sort of looking around and like, what's going on? And and that, you know, that makes it all worthwhile. It was really funny watching them because they were, you know, I think they were 6 and 8 at the time, the 2 kids, and, you know, they were enthralled. And the only time anytime there was some kissing though, they would both kind of like go cover their eyes over. They could handle all the shooting and all the death and everything like that. But as soon as it was
not kissing,
we don't want to hear that. Not my Star Wars. They were saying, you know,
Did they petition Lucasfilm afterwards to like remove all kissing from Star Wars? Maybe make the film without kissing.
Take out the kissing and put some dewbacks in there, or PG and Jabba in there, or something like that. So you mentioned the Facebook group. So I'm a member of that, but I'm kind of on the member of a couple other groups. I'm sort of on the periphery. I kind of, you know, dip in and dip out, as you do with Facebook groups and things. So I don't know much about the history of it. So how did that all come about?
Yeah, so that was a byproduct of let's see, when is that? So we started that not long before Rogue One came out, or was it just after Rogue One came out? I can't remember now. It was kind of towards the tail end of a year, you know, a year and a bit ago, 2 years ago, something like that. Basically, the whole lightning storm in a bottle thing that, you know, was The Force Awakens kind of just kept snowballing into, I wanted to talk about Star Wars. I was messaging friends about Star Wars and all this stuff, things that like I hadn't really been doing. I was sort of living my own little private fandom for a while and not really doing much with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Force Awakens came along. It ignited something in a lot of people. Some could say the Force was awakened in a lot of people.
That's a clever name. Yeah.
So that kind of happened, and it just kind of kept steamrolling from there. And actually, I think it was just after Rogue One came out. Actually, everyone was talking. I had something like 4 or 5 Facebook messages or message threads and message groups going with people I knew, people I didn't know, and it was just getting kind of a bit much to keep track of. And I didn't really like any of the other Facebook groups. 1, because they were too big, and 2, they were full of dickheads, to put it quite tamely. So I was sitting there just speaking to everyone and going, let's just do something with this. Like, we all obviously want to do something with it. So started a Facebook group and made sure that it was worthwhile first. So I just put the feelers out, put a few posts up on my own Facebook, messaged a few people privately. It was like, hey, if I do this, if I start a little group and make it Melbourne only, because that was kind of the thing. There was nationwide groups, global groups. I was like, all right, what's in Melbourne? Looking around, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing that was just Melbourne. If I do this, would you participate? And pretty quickly got the first 10, then got the first 20 and 30, and it just kind of went from there. And so, started that, and good conversations happened. And then I was like, all right, well, we've got something good going on here. It's, we've got a good core bunch of people. We're not talking rubbish. We're not being mean to each other. We're all being really respectful, even though like we have some, wildly different opinions.
Yep.
And, unless they're my opinions, they're wrong, but,
rule with an iron fist.
So then that sort of has snowballed from that point on. So, now Blue Bantha Milk Co is a YouTube channel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I've done a little bit of YouTubing stuff. I did a bit of stuff. I've done a bit with Steel Wars. I know Steel, and I've helped him out with video stuff over the last couple of years, just when I could and things. And it's always a bit of fun. And then when I decided to sort of start the podcast, I started just doing, because I would basically, because it was sort of Steele's thing, and I would help out and add up things that I could. And I'd sometimes have an idea going, well, that's just completely stupid. There's no way that I'm going to put that on Steele's thing, because, he runs it a lot more professionally, but I was going, if I have a stupid idea, it'd be nice to put a stupid idea on and just put it up and be done with it. So that was sort of emphasis for what I did with mine, but I only touch in now and then the podcast kind of came out of that as well. And I had a podcast a few years ago that kind of went nowhere, and I always wanted to get back into it. And then kind of when I bought a house and had it, because, I was living in my partner, I live in a little Richmond terrace house where you're kind of living on top of each other, and we had a small child, and it was just no room. And then we bought a big house, and then all of a sudden we had a room for a study, and we had space. I'm like, all right, well, this is the antithesis. I've got no excuses now. I can have a little room set up where I can have all my stuff, and not that I'm in this room right now, I'm in someone else's room, but like I've got my
with a fax.
With a fax, I know. I'm just waiting for it to go off now. I was going to go and mess up the recording now, but so is the YouTube? I've done my research. I had a little click through. I had a look at some of the videos and stuff, and a lot of it seems to be at the moment planning. This is what I want to do. This is what this is what I'm doing. You've got like little kind of funny things in there as well. What's the long-term goal for the YouTube? Is it just to spread the message?
Yeah, good question. I haven't really got a long-term goal with it, right? Like, I needed a creative outlet. There's a quick way into doing something that's kind of creative, and so I'm just going to try and sort of splinter my ideas out and just see what takes up.
That's right.
So I've got, what have I got? Right, as of this day, I've got 3 making a YouTube channel videos, which is all just about choosing audio equipment, how to navigate the requirements of YouTube, that kind of nonsense. But it's stuff that, if I could condense the 2 hours of YouTube videos down to, get rid of all the fluff that everyone puts up there while they are personal branding themselves. If I can get rid of that and condense it to 4 or 5 minutes, and then if someone else finds it and they're like, hey, I was thinking about starting a channel and this guy is telling me what he's learned by stuffing things up. Cool. So that's a thread. And then there's the narrative bit, like I've created a nonsense character that's trolling trolls on Twitter, and
that's what's his name? It's
Fedora Jedi.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen him, and I've looked at him going, this dude's trolling himself right now.
Yeah. It's kind of obvious, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Come on. He's making Donald Trump puns in his bio. He's called Fedora Jedi. His location is even like an old EU planet called Banther, and it was like that sounds kind of like satire, right? And I've had to go in there and write of the satire cluster
just to really spell it out.
Yeah, people have got the blinders on the internet. It's like the second anything confronts them, they get triggered. And, they're like, no, someone is being, confronting. It's like, no, I'm not being confronting. I'm making a very plainly obvious joke if you read it.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of fun. So I've made this character to troll trolls and to troll me. And I will have conversations with this guy that trolls me about Star Wars. So that's a thread. And the first essay style, so more traditional, just informative essay style, that comes out on Sunday this week.
Yeah, right. Because one of the things that struck me about the videos and things was just the planning, I suppose. And I was like, there's like scripts, and there's like I basically go, I've got an idea, and I'll just kind of run it along. When I was doing stuff for Steele, we'd have the audio, and he might have one or two go like, I would like to see this bit and this bit, and then the rest of it you could kind of run with it. And I just listen to the audio and chuck some stuff in, or I'll just sit on the couch, or you're in the shower, or you're driving along, and an idea pops in your head, and I'll make a note on my phone going, that'll be quite funny. I did a little clip where I had because I had the Solo had John Williams had written the Solo theme.
Yeah,
for the Solo movie, and I was like, I wonder what it would sound like if you stuck the Solo theme in the trench run where the Millennium Falcon flies in, because it's really, because you watch that and it's the sound actually kind of dips out for that moment where it flies in. It's almost slightly anticlimactic because the climax is the Death Star blowing up, so there's no climactic sound as the Falcon flies in. I've gone, I wonder if you cued it. And I basically just mucked around in Premiere or whatever I was doing, and I found a cue for the theme that worked really well, and it worked really well with the Yahoo and all that kind of thing, and came in really well. It was like a minute long. And I put that on Twitter, and I thought that was a good idea. And then I tweeted David W. Collins, who does the soundtrack show.
Yep.
And is this heresy? What do you think? And he just thought, no, this is cool. And he retweeted it, and then he was on another podcast and he spoke about it as well. So it was nice to get those little, you kind of get those little connects when somebody within the industry, I suppose, you get that little, you get that little bit of recognition, I suppose. Yeah. And then a lot of the time I'll just do something and you get like 2 views. You're like, all right, well, moving on. It's not all gold.
Yeah.
We're not like Mr. Sunday Movies or one of those guys, who are getting thousands and stuff. But, I think that's a full-time gig for those guys. But
it would be. Absolutely, it would be. And, I'm not expecting that. I don't know if you're expecting that that's the long term.
No. Look, if I didn't have to work, I'd probably do it more regularly, but I still have to work and things, and I find that doing a week at a time is fine. It's good fun. As long as I can find people who are willing to sort of talk about it and stuff. But so episode 9 coming up soon. We've got a bit of a stretch now. We've got a bit of a time to sit and stew in things.
1.5 years, yeah.
Yeah, 1.5 years. Did the Clone Wars news, was that exciting to you at all? Was Clone Wars ever your thing?
Yeah, it was. Only more recently. I kind of missed the Clone Wars. As you know, right? Like it's really friggin' hard to pick up and watch anything if it ever gets picked up by Foxtel here.
Yes.
Like, and the Clone Wars it was exclusive to Cartoon Network. You couldn't watch it. It was pirated only. And I don't know about you, but I can't be asked. I just can't be asked if it's something that I had to pirate, right? And then it was on Netflix for a bit, and I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And so I started watching it. Yeah, man, I loved it. Once it kind of gets going,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Did you watch it in the correct order? You know, there's basically some of them are out of, I've got a little, because after the Clone Wars, I was like, oh, maybe I should go back and watch it. And I actually had it on hard drive somewhere that I had for years, and it's been sitting on a hard drive, and I pulled it out, and I've gone, all right, well, I've got to watch episode 301 first, and then 2, and then I've got to jump back to the movie, and then I've got to go do this. And so I
did it in that order.
And you got all the way through?
Yeah, definitely. Like I was doing it in conjunction with other stuff in the canon. So I read a couple of the comics going into it, and then started watching it. And then I think there's a gap where you watch episode 2 from memory, and then you go back to the Clone Wars, or I could be wrong, or it could be episode 3. I can't remember. So I was jumping in and out of the Clone Wars into comics and into one of the prequels, and then back to the Clone Wars. It would have been episode 2, I think. There's a gap there, because then you obviously are leading into Order 66 eventually.
Yep.
So then I got through that, and then went on to episode 3.
Wow, you must have some sort of massive checklist on your wall where you're just sort of, ticking things off and trying to...
Wikipedia, man. Like, you just search the timeline of canon media, and there's your checklist. It's constantly getting updated. You don't have to touch it, and you just go through, and it's like, yep, read it. What's next? Bam.
So you timed that pretty well then. Like, you kind of got through it and finished it. And then, there's some more coming out soon. No, it's not like you finished it 10 years ago and then we're just sort of sitting around going, well, it's done,
Yeah, no. I think I finished it maybe a year ago. So, I've had a little bit of a break from it. I got to watch all of Rebels because I got up to that. God, that Darth Maul, the Maul arc in Rebels, that floored me. Have you watched Rebels?
Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoyed Rebels.
A lot of people didn't.
Yeah, it's
I don't know why.
Especially going back, because I've gone back and started watching a bit of Clone Wars, and I'm going, this doesn't feel any better or worse.
Yeah.
It kind of feels... I had my brother on a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the animation and stuff, and apparently, Clone Wars is very expensive to make. So I suppose what was expensive, 10 years ago, 10 years now, sort of on par, like the quality of the animation and stuff. Because people sort of went after Rebels for its animation, and it seems perfectly fine, because they've kind of, Clone Wars, at least where I'm up to, is still a bit stiff in places. But
you adjust, once you kind of get your eyes around it, and once your brain registers, that is Anakin. His body moves like this now,
that's right.
Compensates and goes, yep, that's how it is.
Yeah, no, I quite enjoyed Rebels. I think it kind of ran its course. And I touched on this with Tracy when we were talking. I think that they missed a trick not getting closer into probably Rogue One, and probably, maybe even when Rogue One came out, peripherally having stories around there as well. And
yeah, absolutely.
I think the story Rebels ends before Rogue One starts, obviously, because I guess Rogue One happens the day before Star Wars.
Yeah,
so there is, I guess, the kind of, they didn't want to show who'd lived or died, I suppose, by doing that. But I thought you probably could have had characters like Cassian and, Krennic and stuff sort of pop up in other episodes and things. I think that would have been quite cool. But
yeah, I agree.
Who do we, no one's listening. Who knows? What do we know? We're just,
Hey, we know everything. We're fans. I'm like, while you've been saying that, I'm drafting the letter. Just to bring it right back to the letters, man.
Dear Dave Filoni,
we are petitioning for you to lose your job because you missed out on a crossover opportunity, and Josh likes that.
That was probably discussed and dismissed.
Yeah. You don't know Star Wars.
Yeah, no Star Wars. Yeah. Loves your fans.
Nice hat.
Are you got any plans to go to Celebration next year?
Yeah, tickets purchased, all done. Are you going?
Yeah, so I'm going. A couple of friends of mine who sort of do Star Wars stuff with Catherine and Andy, who have their own podcast. Yeah. Yep, they're going along as well.
What's their podcast?
They're going along, and then sort of people that we know sort of through the groups and stuff that we have are going to be there as well. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be, part convention, part like you're on a blind internet date going, oh, hello, internet friend, hello, internet friend, and hello, internet friend. And, I'm quite lucky. I don't sort of have any issues with social anxiety. I'm always up for meeting people and stuff. So I think it'll be quite fine for me. But I think you have to sort of be a bit, wary that some people might have to feel you out a little bit before, you can't just be like, hey, best friend, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I think we're going to have beer before that. Yeah. Cause like I'm flying in, and I think I'm flying in solo. I'm going a bit ahead as well. So I'm going to spend like maybe a week in Chicago before celebration, because I've never been. Have you ever been to Chicago?
No, I've been to New York a bunch of times, and I've been to. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you're there.
There we go.
No, I haven't been to Chicago. I've been to New York a bunch of times, and I've been to Hawaii, but I've never been to Chicago, and I've never been to me. And I'm looking forward to it. No, I'm going to be in the middle of. I've got a second child coming in December, so I actually. Well, thank you, but when that all sort of happened, I went, well, that's it. There'll be no Star Wars celebration, because it's born in December. It'll be 4 months old, and and my partner just went, no, you can go. We'll be all right. We'll survive. Grandparents down the road. So I'll be just going for the week, basically.
Yeah, okay.
I've got to kind of fly in. I'll probably arrive the day before, leave the day after, and I might go via the West Coast for a day or 2 or 3 days, just because I've got to arrive. I'll arrive back that weekend anyway. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be at work regardless. So as much as I can spend more time. But, I'm not really quite sure what to expect, really. I've kind of done – I've never done a big convention like that. I've done the Melbourne Oz Comic Con a couple of times, which is, perfectly fine, but I think it's a bit of a mouse compared to obviously the big American ones. So
yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you. Like I've not been to something like this. Like I've been to big music festivals, obviously.
Yeah,
probably all have and whatnot, but not a convention, right?
Yeah, so I think it'll be, it's only going to be so big and there's only going to be so much on. So I feel like it's also the sort of the social side and seeing those people and making those connections and doing things around the convention as well. I think it'll be just as rewarding, because ultimately,
absolutely,
anybody can see the episode 9 trailer, 20 seconds after it drops. It's not as if it's going to be an exclusive thing. I mean, it'll be fun to be potentially in the room when it happens and stuff. But at the same time,
together.
Yeah. Well, it's the queuing up overnight that kills me. I'm going to go, I've got a couple of friends who are like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know. Like, it's hard enough staying awake on a plane. I'm getting too old, but we'll see. Like, I'm sure once you're amongst it and you're caught up in it, you might just be like, oh, there's the fax again.
Ooh, are you actually receiving faxes?
I don't know.
Or is it ringing and hanging
randomly going along. It's just the third. It's the third host here. The other guest is the fax. The father-in-law's a chartered accountant. Yeah,
father-in-law's an accountant.
So this is why he's got paper everywhere, I think. Just in case. But
if he's getting faxes this time of day, it's probably for ink cartridges or something like that.
Yeah, we financial year just ended, so I don't know why anybody's
stock up on toner for the new financial year.
Yeah, that's right. Get ready.
Big discounts.
Yeah, so celebration, it'll be something else. I'm not quite sure what to expect, but I'm looking forward to it. I feel like it's the perfect time to go, like an episode 9, end of a trilogy. I think the relationships with the people that I know in the community are sort of as strong as they've ever been. And there's more, you're not kind of going to be wandering around on your own, trying to make a friend. There'll be people around you'll be able to do stuff with. So it'll be, it'll be really good fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm flying there by myself, basically. So I'll get in, I'll have a week just chilling out by myself, walking around, just seeing what Chicago's like. Then my cousin who lives in Seattle, he is flying in. So I'll get to, spend a bit of time with him. And he's got the all week pass for celebration as well. So, I hope that he's got got some energy underneath him for this, because I'm gonna absolutely probably push him to be lining up and not sleeping and all sorts of stuff, and then send him back to his home and his job and everything. And off you go. I've got a few more days here to chill out.
Well, that's right. You can always sleep on the plane, but that's
Exactly.
right. Like I've done Glastonbury Festival, and that's 5 or 6 days and of barely any sleeping, and you can only carry what you can eat and drink, and luckily we didn't have any mud or anything like that. So I've done we do Golden Plains Festival every year and things, and Meredith and all that kind of stuff. So sleeping on a convention floor shouldn't really be a problem.
It'll be carpeted.
It'll be carpeted.
It'll be carpeted. That's luxury. Like some of the places I've been looking at to stay in. Oh man! Like, did you get your accommodation sorted?
Yeah. So we we got quite lucky actually, because we sort of had a little crew of us, and then we were like, are we going to do this? We're going to do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Yeah. So we bought the day passes. Obviously, we bought the full week passer. And then I got the guys come around to my house, and we basically just popped the laptops and started having a look at the hotels and stuff as well. But basically all the hotels had caught on that Star Wars Celebration on. But Airbnb hadn't. So we got quite lucky. So we managed to get a little house for the duration of it. Everybody got a bedroom and stuff, and it was actually quite reasonable, I think.
That's good.
Yeah. It was quite funny because you kind of look at the map of Chicago and go, oh yeah, look, all these houses are kind of here, and then there's nothing below here. What's that all about? And somebody goes, oh yeah, that's because it's like the murder capital. Below Rough Street or whatever. The wrong side of the tracks is all the rough area of town. They're on this side of the town, like don't feel like you need. There's like one place down here. Like, oh, that place is really cheap. It's like, yeah, that's the murder capital of America. Let's just stay at the top in our safe little zone here where everything's okay.
Isn't it shocking? It's like, we go into America. Like, come on, you don't have that issue coming to Melbourne. Like,
no.
I'm going to go to the murder capital of Melbourne. Do you know where the murder capital of Melbourne is? I know where the car theft capital of Melbourne is, but not murder.
No, I don't know. Isn't it Adelaide? Isn't that the murder capital of Melbourne?
Yes.
So yeah, no. I mean, I've done America a few times, and I've sort of gone. Food is good but terrible for you. People generally really good. Beer is awful. I
found the beer was a lot better the last time I went.
Oh, I had some awful beer in New York. It was terrible, but it was just like into a pub. What have you got on tap? And it was, if you search out, I'm sure you can find stuff.
The microbrew scene's got a lot bigger than it is.
The last time I was in New York, we found some places that had some good beer, but the first time I was there, it was like like this big white styrofoam cup, and it was just it was bloody awful. But no, I'm really looking forward to Chicago. Are you going to take merch over and do stuff like that, or just hand out some stickers, or you don't know yet?
Yeah, I don't know yet. Probably stickers, just something that's easy, something that's lightweight. Like I'll rep my own shirts probably, just so people know who I am. Hopefully by that time, I'll have picked up a little bit, in terms of followers and things like that. So
well, I've got a friend of mine who she works in merchandising, like band merchandising. Cool. So she, she does all of that, and I'm actually going to have her on. She's not a massive Star Wars fan, but she's just fascinating and a fantastic talker.
Very cool.
I'm just like, you can talk about anything, so I'm going to get you on. But she's just like, oh yeah, we can do these, and we can do these, and we can do these. I'm like, well, we're only a Mickey Mouse operation. I would probably more do it just to have things to give out to friends. Here's a shirt, or here's a hat, or here's something. I'm just trying to think of something that's quite cool, that's unique, that you can kind of take 50 over and shove in a suitcase, and then and then when you give them all out, you've got room to stick figures in or something as you take them back. But
that's going to be the hard part. Like, I know that I'm probably going to come back with bags and bags of crap. I don't know where the hell I'm going to put it.
Well, I've been getting into collecting Black Series figures.
Oh yeah.
After the reject shop started stocking them. So if you get into a reject shop pretty much outside of the centre of Melbourne, they've got a lot of Rogue One era Black Series. Like if you go, I don't know which area of Melbourne are you?
I'm in Brunswick.
Yeah, you probably go slightly further out, though you might get lucky. But I'll go
to Broady. I'll go to Broadmeadows. That's the murder capital.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
But they had stocked about a dozen different variations of Black Series for $10 each. So I'd sort of gone on this hunt and find them and stuff. And then I had a mate who works for Reject Shop, and I was like, dude, where are all the Black Series? And he just like, all right, there's if you go to Lakes Entrance, there's 30 in stock there. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to Lakes Entrance. But we were in Torquay a couple of weeks ago, and I went into Geelong, on the outskirts of Geelong, while my daughter was napping, and I just hit their Reject Shops, and they had flush with figures. But I basically got to a point where I've got everything that they've got, so I was just going to places and I was like, oh, look, they've got a bunch of Cassians or Gin Ursos or whatever, but I've got them all. I don't need more than one. But so check those out for figures. Some of the Myers have been stocking Black Series and scanning them at $15 instead of $40.
Oh, wow.
Clearing their episode 7 ones, but they've been all scanning at $15 no matter what. So I got a Luke, Noke, and a Ray for $15 each, which were really good. And then the Toys R Us, that sort of cleared out.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it was. I went to the what was it? The Doncaster one. And I got one or two things, and it was just sad. It was a lot of empty shelves and things. And then when I was up in Cairns, because they don't get as much traffic up there, I went up there when everything was 60, 70% off, 2 or 3 days before it closed, and they still had stacks of stuff. So I got the big Ray Black Series speeder for about $40 instead of 120. So I got that, and then had to figure out how to get it into my suitcase. Because I just didn't really think this through.
It's carry on.
I know, it's carry on. So I got that and a couple of other things. They had some Black Series, but I had them all already, unfortunately. But that's what happens. As soon as you get a little space to start putting things, you just start accumulating.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking behind you now. Obviously, you can't see this on a podcast, but you have some very clear walls. I'm not seeing a lot of stuff hanging on the walls here, but that there could be other rooms in the house, where things are.
No, it's one of those things where so it's a 1-bedroom, right? Like there's where you can see behind me is the entryway. So that's why all the light's coming from.
Right. Yep.
Right. So over to one side, I've got the TV and a tower that's designed for the cats, basically. It's one of those angled bookshelves that we got a bath mat and glued the bath mat to each shelf. So they've got something that they can claw and climb on. So that takes up basically a whole wall.
Yeah.
Then I've got a bookshelf that has actual books on it.
Oh, right.
Wow. Yeah. And
quaint.
Yeah. Very, very quaint. Most of them are my partners. I've got a small selection of books. About 50% of them are Star Wars. And I love Kindle. I've got to say, like, I couldn't do the whole Star Wars reading thing if it wasn't for Kindle. Like if I had to make that much space for comics and novels and all that, it's be like, well, where am I going to put this? Like, I'm not going to take out a storage shed. Like, I'm not going to pay for a storage shed.
Well, now I've got my our big house, that out the suburbs that. My parents came around the other day and they just brought here's all your CDs that you left at your house at our place when you moved overseas. So here's
thanks. I really needed those.
I'm like, oh, great. Well, if everybody wants some alternative music from 1996 to 2003, hey,
that was a good period.
That was a good period. There's a couple of gems in. I mean, it's all good, but a lot of it I've just got digitally now. So I'm like, oh, nobody really.
I cleared all that stuff out.
Yeah, and a mate, he messaged me, he was renovating his house and he's just like, what can I get for CDs? I'm like, you might as well insulate your roof with them because they're just not worth anything unless you got the rare things. But
I sold all mine. I had like a few hundred CDs. I did it in a bundle and I only got like $80.
Yeah.
Like a few hundred, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
I got a couple of really rare ones, but the rest is just... Yeah, it's a bit sad. So that one day it might be the same with the figures. Maybe one day when I get too old, my daughter just clears them out and put, instead of your mum chucking out your Star Wars figures, it's your kids chucking out your Star Wars figures when they're just taking up space in their house. That's probably where I'll end up. But
oh man, I don't have any kids, and I'm an only child as well. So all of my stuff at some point, I'm gonna have to figure out a pathway,
a legacy.
I've got to have something. Maybe I'll start a foundation by that time. Literally, it'll just be a donation foundation. So take all of Matt's crap, bequeath it to
take
someone.
my figures and my T-shirt, my branded T-shirts, and
My undies,
and bury them with me.
limited edition Star Wars socks.
Well, thanks for coming on, mate. We could probably go all day, but we'll keep it short. We'll get you back on again, when we've got more stuff to go on about. And
yeah, absolutely. And you can come online.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, I've figuring this sort of thing out, because like YouTube's very much a I talk at you kind of platform, right? So I'm going to start experimenting with, you listen to two people talk to each other, but it not be kind of like just in straight podcast format. So I want to figure that out. Like, as you alluded to earlier, yeah, you do kind of script things for YouTube, even if it is just a conversation. Like you got to script it a bit more. So a 5-minute thing can take 2 weeks to generate.
I just don't have the time or the patience to do that. Like, even if I thought of something clever, I'd be like, I just don't have the patience to do it. It's easier to find people who are cool to talk with, and then hope for the best, really. And we've been lucky enough so far. But
I'm just a masochist. Like, seriously, this is my first endeavor. And so it's like, hey, why not just do the hard one? Why not? Yeah, it's cool. You lose sleep. You don't need sleep. What's this? Your hair's thinning. You don't need that.
Spoken as a man with no children right there. There it is.
Hey, I work from home. I've got a hard life.
That's true. Those cats aren't going to take care of themselves.
No, they're not. They're absolutely not. They meow at me every morning.
That's right. So if people want to follow, obviously the Facebook group is a Melbourne thing. So if you're in Melbourne, look it up on Facebook.
Yeah, so Blue Bantha Milk Co. on Facebook. If you search that, and you'll see one of them that just says Blue Bantha Milk Co. That's the page. That's kind of like the gateway to finding the YouTube channel, or you can just search that on YouTube. I guess that's easier. But yeah, if you're from Melbourne and you just want to meet some people as well, you'll see when you search it on Facebook, you'll see that there's one that says a Melbourne Star Wars community, and that's one for you. If you're not from Melbourne, piss off. And
we're talking about Star Wars and footy, and
not even. I don't think anyone. Surprise!
Guys, no one's talking footy.
They don't talk sports. Whoa! Who would have thought?
Someone's moderating a tight ship in there.
That's me. Yeah, no. Plenty of talk about Bunnings and Mitre 10 statues and like Star Wars garden gnomes at the moment. But yeah, so look, really the big thing for me is YouTube. Like, just search Blue Bantha Milk Co. on YouTube. Subscribe. It helps. Even if you think it's crap, just turn off notifications. Help me out, yo.
That's right. Throw them a bone. Spread it around. Nice one, mate. All right. Well, we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks, mate. It's been fun.
And just follow us at starwarsspelt.com. Everything's on there at the socials. Leave a review if you like. That'd be nice. Subscribe. We've got some more really big guests coming up soon as well. So onwards and upwards. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.